start by just sketching the two pans? Can you picture?
Up until this.
Well, you can picture them in your head.
Nobody sketched anything until I made you. Okay.
We do a little when we're paying attention.
If you didn't do that, think about this. If that is an 8-inch round pan, that means it's 8 inches across. And yeah, that's the best circle I can draw. If you have an 8-inch square pan that's 8 inches across, it's going to look like that. And that picture is worth a lot, right? Because if you can really think that clearly about what it's going to look like, you can get at the questions here maybe without even doing a calculation. Okay, that round pan would just kind of barely fit inside the square one. All right, so if you didn't think that way, let's start there because that's helpful. On the first one, if you want thick brownies, how do you decide which pan? Who can explain what they did? Okay, go ahead.
You want a smaller area so that because you're using the same amount of batter so that it will rise higher.
All right, you want a smaller area because that will give you more height? Okay. Yeah, I mean, if there's less space on the bottom of the pan, it can take up, the batter's got to go higher because you're putting the same amount of batter in there. Okay, so we want the area for the circle pan and the area for the square pan. Did we calculate both of those?
Yep.
Okay, so on the circle, what's the formula that we want? Pi r squared, and r for this is?
4.
For what?
Inches.
4 inches.
4 inches, okay. So this is part of what we're going to work with. When you're doing a formula, whether it's a geometry formula or something else, don't just put in what I call kind of a naked number. Put it in with units, because then you'll get the units right on the answer. So if I put in the 4 inches and square it, then what happens? I've got the 4 squared, right, which is 16. I've got the pi, and the inches get squared as well, right? So you go from inches to square inches. And 16 pi is not incredibly helpful, so on your calculator, what is that approximately?
8.24.
2.7.
50.2 or 3, depending on whether we use the pi button or we did 3.14.
It was 2.65, and so if you round it up,
It's 3.
2.7.
Well, yeah, that would be 3. Just round it to 50 and stop this. Okay, so about 50 square inches. Okay, square pan, I'm just thinking what for the area? Length times width works, but they're both 8s. 8 what? Inches. So I've got 8 inches, 8 inches, I get 64 square inches, right? Okay.
So that's not inches squared, that's squared inches, right?
Did we talk about this, or am I having deja vu?
We did.
Yeah, you want to read it as square inches, not inches squared, because otherwise, if you say 64 inches squared, it sounds like you mean 64 inches by 64 inches. Okay, so you really want to read this 64 square inches. All right, so circle pan has a smaller area on the bottom, therefore you're going to get thicker brownies, right? Okay. Part B, what if you're not interested in thicker brownies? What if you want more edge pieces? I know a couple groups thought this was crazy, but they actually sell special pans to turn your entire thing of brownies into all edges. So some people do want more edges. We've got one of those pans where you pour the batter in and then there's like a little metal grid that you drop in so that it makes them all perfect little squares. No, I think I actually bought it myself. Better or worse, I don't know.
Mother's gift to yourself.
You can't have your own size brownie.
I worked hard as a mother. I deserve this.
Okay, so if I want to maximize the edge pieces, I'm not really interested in the area of the bottom anymore. What dimension, what aspect of the pan am I interested in?
Perimeter.
Perimeter. Okay, so we want perimeter of the circle pan, which is called what? Perimeter of a circle is called circumference.
Because we couldn't do
Because we need a new name for it, yeah. And what's the formula there? What do I want to use?
Pi times diameter.
You can either do pi times diameter, or you can do 2 pi r. You could argue that this is easier because diameter is what you were actually given, right? That's the 8. So let me do that one. Pi times the diameter is 8 inches. So it's 8 pi inches, which isn't very useful if you're in the kitchen. So it's approximately what?
25.
25, close enough?
Yeah.
25 what?
Inches.
Just inches, right? That's a linear measurement. You're just doing a dimension going around, so that's not going to be square units. And I want the perimeter for the square pan,
Which is just called perimeter.
which is just perimeter. We don't have a special word for that. And I don't even think about that in terms of a formula. I just picture it and add up the 4 sides, right? So I'm thinking 8 inches, and I've got 4 of them. Yeah, so I get 32 inches.
Oh,
Notice up here when I multiplied inches times inches, I got
inches squared.
square inches, but when I add up a bunch of inches, it's just still inches. This previews something we're going to talk about next week, right? If you're adding up a bunch of inches, you're going to get another measurement in inches, which maybe feels like a well, duh moment, but you're going to do this later with x's, and you're going to be tempted to change that. Yeah.
I did have a little hint that I thought about. If you think about the perimeter in multiplication for the square, it's 8 times 4.
Yep.
And we know that pi is 3.1415. And so pi is smaller than 4. And so we will already know that the perimeter is larger for the
Without
square.
ever touching your calculator. Right, did you guys catch what he said? That's nice. Not at all, okay. This formula for the perimeter of the square, instead of adding up 4 8s, I can just do 4 times 8. So this one's 4 times 8, and this one was 3.14 times 8. So they're both something times 8, but this one's a bigger number times 8, so you're going to get a bigger answer. Those kind of estimation skills are nice, right? You're standing in a grocery store or something, you don't have a calculator. It's nice to be able to think that way. Okay, so on this one, I want what? The larger number or the smaller number?
The larger number.
I'm wanting more edges, so I want the
Square pan.
square. So more edge here. Okay. Any other comments, or are we okay to leave that one?